A quiet life rarely makes the news, but strict routines and careful spending over decades can accumulate immense unseen value. For 31 years, Gloria worked as a public school librarian. She never purchased a car on credit and never took on debt. Through absolute, uncompromising frugality, she successfully saved $214,000. 3 weeks after she passed away peacefully in her sleep, her daughter began the routine administrative process of settling the estate, a series of phone calls and paperwork typical of any life that has ended. During a call to the bank to transfer her mother's savings, the banker fell quiet. She confirmed the account number, then read the remaining balance over the phone, exactly $11.42. $214,000 had vanished, leaving no trace of a market crash or a failed investment to explain the loss. The funds did not disappear in one lump sum. Bank records indicated the account bled out methodically, month by month, over a 14-month period. Starting at $214,000, Gloria's savings are drained in a steep staircase pattern. 47 distinct withdrawal transactions emptied the account, with the final withdrawal executed just 3 days before she died. The mechanism that allowed this drain was a change in the account structure. 14 months prior, Gloria's solitary account was converted into a joint account, controlled by her sister. This detail creates a significant legal hurdle. A joint account holder often has full authorization to withdraw funds at any time, making it difficult to separate malicious theft from a legally authorized gift. To understand how the account was converted, we have to look at Gloria's health. Shortly before withdrawals began, she was diagnosed with early-stage Parkinson's disease. The tremors specifically compromised her primary financial safeguard. Her handwriting, once meticulous, degraded quickly, making her signature highly erratic and difficult to verify. During this period, Aunt Carol stepped in with an influx of sudden caregiving. She began showing up regularly to run errands, pick up groceries, and manage Gloria's medical appointments. These caregiving routines provided the perfect cover for isolation, allowing Carol to gain unchecked access to Gloria's private documents under the guise of family support. Gloria's daughter sat in her car outside the bank, processing the banker's revelation. The math suddenly aligned. The 14-month timeline of the 47 withdrawals perfectly overlapped with the window Aunt Carol began helping around the house. She drove straight to her mother's empty house, let herself in with her key, and walked directly to the bedroom closet. She bypassed the sentimental items and searched specifically for a physical record that could account for the banker's timeline. Reaching up to the top shelf of the closet, she pushed aside the winter sweaters and pulled down an old shoebox. Beneath a layer of old photographs and childhood birthday cards, she found a handwritten letter addressed to her. In the letter, Gloria expressed fear. She wrote that she wasn't sure what Carol was having her sign and admitted she felt physically unable to fight back as her condition worsened. The physical traits of the letter tell the story. The strokes are uneven and pressed heavily into the paper, the deliberate, struggling handwriting of someone fighting a severe tremor to leave a record. While the letter provided emotional confirmation, its primary purpose was to direct her daughter to the legal evidence buried at the bottom of the box. Beneath the letter, Gloria had hidden a complete 14-month stack of bank statements, documenting every dollar removed from her account. At the very bottom of the folder lay the original paperwork, a photocopy of the joint account application. This analysis places the two documents side by side. On the left is the shaky, labored handwriting from Gloria's personal letter. On the right, the signature on the bank application is fast, fluid, and entirely smooth. A person with advancing Parkinson's cannot execute a signature this fluid. The smooth ink proves a forgery, executed by someone who knew the name but failed to account for Gloria's physical condition. Gloria spent her final months documenting the exploitation she was physically unable to stop, building a trap for the person she had once trusted. 3 decades of librarian-grade record-keeping provided the skills necessary to assemble an airtight criminal case from beyond the grave. Her daughter picked up the phone and called a lawyer. Against quiet vigilance and hard physical evidence, the exploitation would not survive the light of day. For years, Nadia watched her mother slowly lose control of her own body. Parkinson's disease is relentless. It strips away movement and independence. When her mother finally passed away, Nadia was left to grieve and to manage the estate. Settling the accounts should have been a straightforward process. Her mother had worked quietly for 31 years, saving diligently. Nadia expected to find a secure financial cushion, built entirely on decades of saying no to unnecessary expenses. Instead, she found empty accounts. Over the last 2 years, the exact window of time when her Aunt Carol had stepped in as the primary caregiver, $214,000 had vanished. This is a scenario that plays out quietly every day. The primary witness is gone. Without them to testify, a massive financial extraction like this usually degrades into a messy, unprovable family dispute. The perpetrator walks away, claiming the money was a gift or authorized compensation for care. But Nadia's mother had known something was wrong. She might not have been able to stop it in the moment, but she found another way. Tucked in her closet, hidden behind a stack of winter sweaters, was a shoebox. Inside the box was a personal letter written directly to Nadia, resting on top of carefully kept, historically dated bank statements. These hidden records gave Nadia what she needed. They provided a voice for her mother, giving investigators the concrete historical baseline required to pull this out of a civil family dispute and launch a criminal investigation. Nadia took the box to Patricia Vance, a lawyer known for her methodical approach to evidence. Vance explained the immediate legal hurdle. To pursue criminal charges for elder financial abuse, they needed hard proof of deceit. Suspicion is not enough for the police. They quickly zeroed in on the mechanism that drained the funds. It was a joint account application, filed and signed 14 months before Nadia's mother died. Looking at the document, Nadia noticed an immediate discrepancy. The signature was deliberate and careful, but the shoebox letter, written months later, had entirely different handwriting, shaky, difficult, and clearly degraded by Parkinson's. If that pristine signature could be scientifically proven as a fake, Aunt Carol's claim of being an authorized caregiver would fall apart. The document went to Dr. Susan Park, a forensic document examiner with over 2 decades of courtroom experience. She spent 4 days analyzing it. Parkinson's leaves a distinct trail, erratic pressure, and visible tremors along ink curves. The application signature lacked these, showing fluid loops inconsistent with the disease. Park realized it was a copy of the mother's signature from 5 years earlier, long before her diagnosis. Whoever forged the document had meticulously traced an old signature, failing to account for the physical reality of the mother's current condition. That attempt to create a perfect replica resulted in a chronological paradox, cementing the scientific proof of forgery. With the forensic report confirming the forgery, Detective James Okafor took over the case and initiated a digital trace on the drained accounts. The extraction was systematic. Over a 14-month window, 43 separate cash withdrawals were made from local ATMs, but cash was only part of it. 4 massive wire transfers were routed directly into an account registered under Aunt Carol's name. The scheme relied on the assumption that the initial joint account application would never be questioned. Once exposed, the actual theft was incredibly brazen, leaving a digital footprint pointing straight back to the perpetrator. On a Thursday morning, the local police arrived at Carol's quiet suburban home to execute the arrest warrant. When she answered the door in her bathrobe, Carol didn't ask why they were there. According to the detective, she simply looked at him and stated, "Nadia found the box, didn't she?" Much of the money was already gone, spent on personal debts, a new car, and a spring vacation to Mexico. But the authorities moved fast enough to freeze her accounts and recover $63,000. It could not restore the total sum of what had been taken, but recovering that money meant a tangible portion of her mother's 31 years of labor was reclaimed and returned to her estate. This entire resolution traces back to a quiet bedroom where a woman losing her physical strength made a deliberate choice to document her reality. Financial exploitation of the elderly thrives on isolation. It counts on the victim being too confused or weak to resist, and it relies heavily on the assumption that surviving family members will never look closely at the paperwork. By recognizing what was happening and intentionally preserving a cache of counter-evidence, Nadia's mother dismantled that primary advantage. The abuser's cover story couldn't withstand the scrutiny of those hidden bank statements and that handwritten letter. An organized paper trail is the most effective defense against this kind of exploitation. It allows those who are vulnerable to speak with total clarity, ensuring their voice is heard long after they are gone.
$63,000. That is the exact amount of restitution ordered after an absolutely agonizing 8-month legal battle. But, what happens when the person who steals an entire lifetime of savings isn't just some faceless stranger, but a member of your own family? Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a deeply personal and just utterly fascinating true story about justice, preparation, and the literal lengths one woman went to protect her life's work. We're going to look closely at the evidence, the outcome, and the absolutely vital lessons left behind in what we're calling Where the Truth Lives, a Legacy in a Shoebox. Section 1. The Reality of Elder Abuse. Accountability Without Prison. Okay, let's dive into this. Because the way the legal system handles family-perpetrated frauds might actually really surprise you. The perpetrator in this case, Carol, pleaded guilty to elder financial abuse and forgery. But look at her sentence. 3 years probation, mandatory restitution of the stolen $63,000, 200 hours of community service, and absolutely zero prison time. None. The prosecutor actually confirmed that first-time offenders in financial elder abuse cases, especially when they're family members, rarely ever see the inside of a prison cell. Crazy, right? So how did the victim's daughter even process this kind of light sentence? Well, she had a realization. She said it was a record, a legal document that said what she did was wrong. You see, prison or no prison, this legal document provided hard, undeniable accountability. It meant her mother's 31 years of careful, quiet choices weren't just erased in silence without anyone noticing. Someone noticed. It mattered. Section 2. Rebuilding a Stolen Legacy, the 31-Year Fund. So how does a stolen legacy actually get rebuilt once the legal dust finally settles? Just consider the sheer scale of the mother's dedication versus the timeline of the justice system. For 31 years, this mother worked quietly at her school library, just diligently saving her money. The legal process to secure justice? That took a mere 8 months. And the installment plan for Carol to return that stolen $63,000 took 18 months. Decades of careful saving were temporarily disrupted, but eventually fully reclaimed. And what happened to that reclaimed money? Well, it was beautifully transformed. The daughter took those installments and created a living memorial fund in her mother's name for that exact same school library. She funded books, educational programs, and scholarships for students who genuinely needed them. The money she scraped together for over 3 decades is now doing exactly the kind of work she believed in, completely outlasting the crime itself. It's really incredible. Section 3. Secrets Inside the Shoebox, an Artifact of Truth. But let's take a step back. How was this accountability even possible in the first place? How do you prove family fraud when the victim is so vulnerable? The daughter said, "I still have the shoebox." And honestly, that simple sentence changes everything about this story. The mother wasn't naive. She didn't miss what was happening to her accounts. She saw it crystal clear. But feeling uncertain and maybe unable to formally prove it in the moment, she left a deliberate physical trail for her daughter to find. A simple, everyday shoebox. Now, what's really interesting about all this is what was actually inside that box. Today, sitting on a shelf, it holds a profound mix of contents. You've got the cold, hard legal evidence, right? The forensic report, the detective's business card, a copy of the final settlement. But underneath all of that clinical justice, her mother's original letter outlining the truth and a birthday card the daughter made for her when she was just 7 years old. It's this undeniable, powerful mix of hard evidence and deep, personal love. Section 4. Giving Truth a Home, Defeating the Silence. This brings us to a much broader lesson that applies to all of us, basically the abuser's playbook. Wrongdoers count on silence. They count on confusion. They bank on the blinding fog of grief, making everything harder for the surviving family. But you know what defeats them? Tangible documentation. A shoebox, time-stamped emails, recorded conversations, a simple folder on a shelf. Undeniable evidence completely shatters the silence they rely on, which leads to this incredibly powerful imperative from our source. The truth needs somewhere to live. Give it somewhere to live. Bad actors are actively banking on the fact that you simply won't look for the truth or that the victim won't have organized it. By putting evidence in a box, a file, or even just a saved email folder, you are ensuring the truth survives long enough to actually be found. Section 5. An urgent act of love. The uncomfortable conversation. So, how do we prevent it from ever coming to this? How do we stop the theft before it literally requires a forensic report? Think about this for a second. Do you have an aging loved one with a lifetime of savings, a parent, a grandparent, someone who is maybe slowly becoming a bit more vulnerable? If your answer is yes, here are the actionable steps you need to take right now. Step 1. Talk to them specifically about their accounts. Step 2. Explicitly discuss who currently has access to that money. And step 3. Ask them what they have signed, what their intentions are, and what they truly, deeply want. You aren't doing this because you're paranoid. You are doing this to protect them. It's an act of love. Because the conversation is so much easier now than the discovery later. No mother, father, or grandparent should ever feel like they have to quietly stash their fears and their evidence into a shoebox, just hoping you'll stumble across it after they're gone. Having this honest, difficult conversation today is literally one of the most profound acts of love you can offer. And that brings us to the absolute core of this entire explainer: trust. Over 31 years of careful living, the most important thing this mother saved wasn't the $63,000. It wasn't the bank copies or the letters. It was the quiet, unshakable faith that her daughter would open that box and know exactly what to do. That trust was untouchable. No bad actor could ever take that away. So I'm going to leave you with this final, provocative thought right from the source. Look in the shoebox. It might save everything. If you have ever been trusted with the most important things someone had to say, or if you've ever had to uncover a vulnerable truth for someone you love, drop a fire emoji in the comments below. Keep the receipts, trust the people who show up for you, and never be afraid to ask the hard questions. Thanks for joining me to explore this